Today, I'm sharing our journey with Christian Light Education first grade curriculum. We used Math 1, Language Arts 1, Learning to Read, and Reading 1 this year. Not only did I use this curriculum with my two children, but I also taught two of my friends' children with the same curriculum. When it's all said and done, it would have taken us about a year and a half to finish everything. And you know what? That turned out to actually be a blessing in disguise. Today, I'm diving into why that timeline worked for us, how we adjusted the pacing, the strengths and the challenges of the curriculum, and tips to help you make it work for your family. So if you're considering CLE for first grade, grab a cup of tea or some water and let's get into it. One thing that really drew me to CLE was the balance between independent work and guided teaching. My kids could handle certain sections on their own, which fostered independence, but we still had plenty of together time for guided lessons, which I believe is very important at this age and stage. And I have to say, the teaching method of Christian Light Education, it tends to be a more traditional approach. And that just made sense for me because it kind of mirrored how I learned growing up, which gave me so much confidence in teaching. I wasn't constantly second guessing myself, like, will this approach actually work? Because it works for me. And that ease translated into a smoother learning experience for my kids. Plus, the curriculum consistency and predictability were huge for us. My kids knew what to expect each day, which cut down on the daily battles and made school time more peaceful. CLE offered the academic rigor we wanted while grounding everything in a Christ-centered worldview, which was also very important to us. Let's talk about the pacing, because finishing in a year and a half wasn't the original plan, but it worked out better than I expected. I know that when you see a full curriculum and it has a grade number next to it, you think we have to get it done in this school year. But I quickly realized that wasn't going to be the situation for us. And I had to adjust to the truth and the reality that it's not a race. Sometimes we moved quickly through lessons with ease and without any difficulty, and other times we had to slow way down. I focused on mastery over checking off boxes. If a concept wasn't clicking, we paused, sometimes revisiting it in the next day. Other times we'd spend an entire week reviewing it. Watching my kids' motivation was crucial. If their focus dropped, I didn't force it. There were days when we ended a lesson early and picked it up later. Those built-in review sections that they have in CLE, those were gold for reinforcing tricky concepts. But if it felt like too much review, I'd skip parts, especially parts that they'd already mastered. The key was remembering that deep understanding matters more than staying on a schedule. Give yourself grace, give your kids grace. Progress, not perfection, is what truly counts. Now let's dive into the subjects. Math 1 is rigorous, but in a good way. There's not a lot of color or fluff, which kept the focus on the math itself. The lessons start gently and gradually push kids towards independence. I love seeing my kids progress from needing my guidance to working through parts on their own. The built-in reviews were thorough. Concepts are introduced clearly and revisited repeatedly, which kept things from slipping through the cracks. My kids never got overwhelmed by new material because they'd already been eased into it. And while the pages aren't flashy, the practical examples made learning relatable. But the best part, their excitement when finishing a light unit. Mom, I finished another book. Wendy, I finished another book. Those are my friends' kids. The sense of accomplishment was so motivating for them and honestly a joy for me to witness. Now, when it came to language arts, Language Arts 1 covers a lot of grammar, spelling, and handwriting. The straightforward instruction helped my kids work independently, which was great when I needed to help another child. Still, some days felt kind of heavy, so we adjusted. Instead of focusing on finishing a lesson, we focused on working for a set amount of time. So at first we started with 20-minute sessions and eventually we built up to 30-minute sessions. That approach kept things manageable and reduced frustration. Spelling was definitely a challenge and still requires extra attention. Even with CLE's built-in practices, my kids needed reinforcement outside of school hours. So we made it fun. We did spelling games during playtime or a quick review session with dad. Making it a family effort took the pressure off and made it less of a chore. Handwriting was another area that needed flexibility on my part. Some of my kids struggled with the fine motor skills, so I adapted the lessons for them. That meant offering separate handwriting sections or using bigger lines and tracing sheets. Extending grace here was crucial. I had to remind myself that it's progress over perfection, no matter how slow the progress was, because I had some young first graders. Learning to read was intense. Very, very intense, but it was worth every minute of it. CLE takes a phonics heavy approach, which I appreciate. My kids went from sounding out letters to reading full words faster than I expected. That said, the pace does pick up at a certain point. When frustration crept in, I added flashcards, games, hands-on activities to keep things light. And when they read their first full sentence, I literally cried. That moment right there, that's why we homeschool. Watching them go from hesitant to like confident readers was beyond rewarding. Reading one beautifully follows learning to read. The stories are engaging and they're filled with a lot of biblical values, and they sparked a lot of conversation at home. It's a lot of reading. So I made sure to keep it stress-free. Some days we'd curl up on the couch. Other days we'd read outside just to switch things up. My kids especially loved reading to their siblings or their dad, and seeing their confidence grow with each story was so special. And those relatable moments made reading time something they genuinely looked forward to and always enjoyable. But I did have to make those moments, like it didn't just come. I had to take the stress out of reading time and not necessarily do the reading in class, but at a separate time. So of course, it was not always smooth sailing. There were days when motivation dipped and certain lessons just didn't click. I had to learn to read the room, sometimes literally. And I'd say, hey, let's take a break and come back later, or let's just tackle this much today. Breaking lessons into smaller chunks saved us from a lot of frustration. Setting timers really helped too. So that way the timer is the bad guy. So I would do 15-minute focus sessions. That worked wonders for us. And what else really helped? Celebrating effort. My kids loved earning a sticker or getting an opportunity to show their dad all they've done. And I often chanted, what does Wendy want you to do? What does mommy want you to do? And they'd be like, just try your best. And I'm like, exactly. So homeschooling is a journey, not a sprint. Something I have to remind myself often. Adjusting expectations wasn't just helpful or isn't just helpful, it's necessary. If you're diving into CLE, here are my top tips for you. Go at your child's pace. It's not about racing to the finish line. Mastery matters more than a deadline. Celebrate the small wins. Stickers, high fives, way to go. Those go a long way. Break up lessons. Short, focused sections. Beat long, dragged out ones. Timers are your friends. Make review fun. Turn practice into games or quick challenges. Keep it light. Skip when needed. If they've mastered something, move on. No need to overdo it. Give grace to your child and yourself. Homeschooling is a journey. Progress over perfection. You got this. So would I recommend it? Absolutely. If you're looking for a biblically based, structured, and thorough curriculum, Christian Light Education is a fantastic option. Just remember to stay flexible, focus on your child's needs, and keep the long-term goals in mind, fostering a love of learning that lasts. At least that's my goal. And if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for more information on Christian Light Education, flip throughs, and all the good stuff, check out this playlist right here. Thank you for watching.